Boogie Nights, directed by Paul Thomas Anderson, is a compelling, very authentic drama about a young man's whirlwind rise and fall in the golden age of the porn industry during the 70s and 80s. Eddie, Mark Wahlberg, is a dishwasher working at a nightclub who is taken under the wing of porn director Jack Horner, Burt Reynolds, who sets him off on a successful but tumultuous career as an adult star with the screen name Dirk Diggler. Paul Thomas Anderson has a talent for making films that are very long, slow-paced, and full of details, but still enthralling, and in Boogie Nights, part of this high quality is due to how simple the film is. As with There Will Be Blood, Boogie Nights has a very efficient structure of setup and payoff. The first half establishes Eddie, or Dirk, and his friends, skills, and fame within the adult industry, which allows us to very closely acquaint ourselves with the character and gives him a platform to fall from in the second half. In the second half, Eddie's fame gets to his head, and he becomes aggressive, gets addicted to cocaine, and turns to crime to support his lifestyle. In an excellent performance from Mark Wahlberg, Eddie is a friendly, bright-eyed, and earnest young man at first, but he is unable to handle success or keep himself grounded. We like Eddie and are emotionally invested in his journey, which makes it all the more engaging, and on a certain level disappointing, to see him succumb to arrogance and growing hubris, and gratifying when he finally redeems himself. Therefore, Boogie Nights is a great example of a character arc driving the plot. The Master features 3 stellar performances from Philip Seymour Hoffman, Joaquin Phoenix, and Amy Adams, and There Will Be Blood is a character study with one powerful, magnetic personality at its core, but Boogie Nights is more of an ensemble piece with a menagerie of interesting characters. Jack is a warm, charismatic figure with an admirable, but perhaps unfeasible due to the demands of his financier and distributor, idealism in his desire to make porn films with the same artistic merit as proper films. Eddie has a close, natural relationship with his best friend and co-star Reed Rothschild, John C. Reilly, and Scotty J, Philip Seymour Hoffman, a gay boom mic operator who is obsessed and in love with Eddie, serves as a meek and rarely heard voice of restraint. Maggie, Julianne Moore, and Roller Girl, Heather Graham, are both bubbly and hot, but tragic and fragile. For instance, Maggie is inwardly shattered about being denied custody rights to her young son, and Buck, Don Cheadle, has another engaging subplot in which he tries to fulfill his dream of starting his own stereo system business, but is denied a loan due to his work in pornography. A couple of my friends described Stanley Kubrick's Eyes Wide Shut as the least erotic movie about sex ever made. That's a fair assessment, as despite the ritualized orgies and prostitutes, Eyes Wide Shut is far more about insecurity, infidelity, double standards, trust, and vanity, and the ritual centerpiece of the film is equal parts majestic and incomprehensible rather than arousing. Boogie Nights is also a surprisingly but purposefully unerotic film, as it portrays porn for the industry and business that it is. Boogie Nights shows how a porn film needs a director, a screenplay, a director of photography, an editor, actors, sets, sound mixing and Foley work, effects, advertising and distribution deals. And no matter how much Eddie and the others are into it, the sex scenes are basically done to complete the shoot. On a more unsettling level, Boogie Nights also acknowledges the commodification of people, and especially women, that can regrettably happen in porn. Men are also objectified in porn, as both genders are naked and exposed in the act, but while Eddie, and to a lesser extent Reed, become genuine stars of an acclaimed series of cop action-themed pornos, their female co-stars, including Maggie and Roller Girl, are also stars, but not to the extent that the men are. There were, of course, major female porn stars in the 70s and 80s, with the most famous being Linda Lovelace of Deep Throat fame, but generally speaking, the shortage of strong, active roles and representation for women in mainstream film, which still hasn't quite been resolved now, was also a problem in pornographic film. The men are the heroes, and the women are there as conquests or rewards to be fucked by the men. There is even a faintly disgusting sequence of Jack driving Roller Girl around the city and scouting for people to have sex with her on tape. But Boogie Nights does not pass moral judgment or condemnation on sex, the porn industry, its unbalanced representation of men and women, which was more a product of the times and not of deliberate sexism, as civil rights were shaky for anyone who wasn't a straight white male, or Eddie's choice of career. To the contrary, Eddie is regarded in a positive light early on as a man with a skill, that being how good he is in bed, and who is living a good life putting it to use.
If you are satisfied and do what you feel you must do, no matter what that is, then you have reached perfection.
Boogie Nights is simply an honest, level-headed depiction of the routine, dull production aspect of porn and a sober parable warning against the excesses and consequences, arrogance, drug addiction, estrangement from family, that can result from fame on a broader level. Boogie Nights has dazzling visual design and music that superbly capture the psychedelic glamour of the 70s and 80s. There's quite a bit of fun humor and also several long takes, which I always like to see. It's not a perfect film. Eddie and Maggie's relationship has a strange Oedipal element to it, as Maggie loves him like a son despite them having sex together in porn, but the film never dwells on this. I'll also say what I said about Joss Whedon's Much Ado About Nothing. The personal drama is great, but the event-based drama is just a little toothless. Numerous plot points, such as Eddie's neglectful/psychotic family, his girlfriend, Jack's financier getting imprisoned for child pornography, Little Billy murdering his mocking wife and her lover, then killing himself, and Jack being pressured to adopt the videotape format, are all established but then passed with little development, making them feel incidental and unimportant. The most glaring example of this is Maggie's custody dispute. This is a sad ongoing plot point that ends in tears, as Maggie is deemed an unfit mother for her work in pornography, criminal record, and cocaine addiction, but this shattering verdict no longer seems to matter in the unironically happy ending. The ending is ultimately the film's biggest stumbling point. Everything goes full circle and Eddie starts again, but there is no indication of growth or spiritual renewal from him. He starts again and that's that. You may think that the ending suggests that Eddie is doomed to repeat this cycle of rising success and arrogant decline, but the hopeful, upbeat tone of the epilogue makes this improbable. After such excellent character development throughout the rest of the film, Eddie's sign-off feels shallow. But overall, Boogie Nights is a very good film, with spectacular performances, interesting characters with fun dialogue, a mature and honest commentary on fame and the golden age of porn, a perfect recreation of the glitzy glamour of the 70s, and a compelling character arc running through the plot, even if it falters at the end and fumbles with some plot points. Of the 3 Paul Thomas Anderson films I've seen so far, Boogie Nights is the least of them, but I still give it 4 stars out of 5. Thanks for watching. Cheers.